Hey Roby kids, so it is Friday, March 27th, and today we're gonna do our reading mini lesson. Now, our reading mini lesson for today is kind of a review of what we've been discussing this week. And our goal today is we're gonna be recounting story details. So we're gonna practice that comprehension strategy of retelling a story. And we're gonna do it using Rabbit and Coyote, which is the story that you read yesterday. All right, so here's some of the things we're going to cover today. First, like I said earlier, we're going to recount the story details of a folk tale. We're also going to be able to demonstrate our understanding of a text or our story by writing a paragraph that recounts key details. And the last one's you can share ideas with your peers, or in your case, your parents or your brother and sister, or even your pet. So we know that great readers can recount or retell the plot of the story they just read. So think back to Monday, we talked about Story Mountain and how each story really has a detailed plot, has a detailed of what happens. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to actually watch this Brain Pop link right here. You're going to click on it. Now, we've used Brain Pop before. And you will need a username and password, and so I put that right down here. So our username is RobyFlyers and BrainPop212. So go ahead, want you to hit pause right now. I want you to pull up this video and I want you to watch it. Now when you're done, I want you to come back to this slide and we're going to continue our lesson. All right, I'll see you in a second. Hit pause. So recounting, one of the great tools that we use to recount a story is that Story Mountain that I introduced to you guys on Monday. So think back to Monday, and we talked about what is the introduction in this story. So who is that main character? What is the setting? That rising action. Remember, rising actions when you start to have a problem come up that the main character is going to have to face. That climax is that problem has gotten way worse. Something big has happened that it's going to be hard for your character to overcome. All hope is lost in a way for your character. Then we have the falling action, like you're coming down that mountain, meaning that problem's getting a little bit better. Maybe they come up with a solution. Maybe you don't know if the solution worked out yet, but you're working on that. And the last one's resolution. So when we're retelling a story, the main important parts here are that introduction, that rising action, the climax, and the resolution. How does that problem get resolved? Falling action is okay if you forget it, but in order to make your story complete when you retell, it's really great to have these 5 components in your recount. So make sure when we're doing this, really, if I asked you to do your DRA and I have to ask you to tell me the story from beginning, middle, and end, you really want to think back to this Story Mountain. And if you're able to do that with every book you read or every assignment that you're given, you're going to give a great recount or a great retell. So let's try to practice that right now, because that's the only way we're going to get better at things if we practice them. So let's pull out Rabbit and Coyote. So remember, we're looking for that rising action, that climax, the resolution. So really focus on those 3 things if you can't really figure out all the components of your Story Mountain. Now, if you want, I put the copies of our text for close reading here in Rabbit and Coyote. However, you can always go on Benchmark Universe and pull up that text for close reading if you rather look at it that way. If not, feel free to just kind of familiarize yourself with this. I copied every single page into your Google slide. So if you need to, you can use that story or you can go on Benchmark Universe. All right, so I want you to see if you can recount the plot using the Story Mountain on the next slide. Okay, so I put the title here for you and the author, and I want you to see if you can recount the story. So right now I want you to hit pause. I want you can print out that Story Mountain handout that's going to be assigned to this classroom, or you can type it within the Google slide. But I want to see, can you recount that story for me? All right, so I want you to hit pause. You can pull up that text for close reading, or if you want to read it on the previous slides, you can do that. All right, go ahead and try to recount that story for me. When you're done recounting and filling out your Story Mountain, come back, okay? All right, hit pause. All right, so now that you've filled out the Story Mountain graphic organizer for Rabbit and Coyote. I put this slide in here because I want you to see, did you get all the important parts in Rabbit and Coyote? So when you're done, you're going to click the next slide. Well, you're going to continue this video. Miss Ruby's going to click it for you. But I don't want you to just copy it, right? The whole point of this is so that you can check your understanding, make sure you got everything that you think you should have. Now, if you didn't, it's okay. I want you to take a red pen or take a different color, and I want you to add that to your graphic organizer. So that way I know, what did you miss? Okay, if you go and you fix it and you got it all right, I'm going to think that you got it. You don't need any extra help. So make sure you're being honest with yourself here, right? It's not about how many points you get. It's about, are you understanding what you're supposed to? All right, so let's take a look at the correct answers. So, the introduction. So, we learned in our story that the main character is the rabbit. And so I put there, Rabbit is the main character, and it takes place at the farmer's garden. That's our introduction. We see Rabbit going into the garden. He's looking for those carrots. Okay, so our rising action, the problem that the character had to face was that the rabbit had taken a lot of those carrots from the farmer, and now the farmer makes a plan to catch the rabbit. So we're seeing that that's the problem coming up. Now, the rabbit doesn't know that he made a plan, but as a reader, we're understanding that the farmer is trying to catch him. Now, the climax. How has that problem gotten worse? So, how has the problem gotten worse of the farmer making a plan to capture the rabbit? Well, the rabbit gets caught, right? So, he gets caught in the farmer's trap, which was that scarecrow covered in beeswax. So, things gotten way worse for the poor little rabbit. Now, that following action, how has the problems improved? Well, the farmer does get put the rabbit into a box, and Coyote discovers him in the box. So there's a chance he can escape this still. In the resolution at the end, how did the problem get resolved? Well, Rabbit tells Coyote he needs someone to take his place at a big feast, right? I think that's what he says he needs. So Coyote, he happily gets into the box because he thinks he's going to go to this feast, and Rabbit goes free. So hopefully you were able to get those elements of the plot within your story mounted. Now, if you didn't, that's okay. Remember, this is all about learning and practicing recounting that story. All right, so here's your last section of your assignment today. Okay, I want for you to now take that recount. So using that story mounted and really documenting the plot of Rabbit and Coyote, I want you to take that graphic organizer and put it into a paragraph. Because as a great reader, you're going to have to do something called a summary. And so when you recount a story, it's basically a summary, but you just are taking those portions of your graphic organizer and you're putting them in to 3 to 4 sentences to recount what happened. And guess what? If you did your work, which we did, okay, and we have our graphic organizer, look how many boxes we have. We have 5 boxes. So technically, if you wrote one sentence for each box, okay, you would have a 5-sentence summary. Okay, so don't overthink this, but I do want to see, what would your paragraph look like if you had to recount that story? So I want you to take that graphic organizer, okay, and maybe you're saying for introduction, in the beginning, we learn the rabbit is trying to steal carrots from the farmer's garden, right? Using those transition words to come up with your retell or your recount in word form. Not using your graphic organizer, but word form. And you're going to type it out here. Now, could you use your graphic organizer to help you? Of course. That's why Miss Ruby has you do it, as a way to help yourself. So I wanted to see, how did your paragraph turn out? And we're going to talk about this more on Monday when we kind of unpack our summary. Okay? So good luck today. Hopefully I will see you guys later. All right, have a great Friday.